All right, let's kick off this explainer with the quote you have probably heard a million times. Organizational psychologist Rensis Likert once said, "The greatest asset of an organization is its people." I mean, we hear this everywhere, right? It's plastered all over corporate websites, CEOs repeated at every annual meeting, and it's basically the golden rule of modern management. We just intuitively know that a company's success comes down to the brains, the creativity, and the hard work of its employees. But here's the thing. This universally accepted idea actually highlights a massive, glaring contradiction in the business world today.
Seriously, think about it for a second. If people truly are an organization's greatest asset, why on earth are they completely missing from traditional financial statements? If a company goes out and buys a fleet of delivery trucks or a massive server farm, boom, those are proudly listed as assets. Their value is calculated, tracked, and shown off to investors. But what about the engineers who built the software, or the salespeople who drove the revenue, the leaders who navigated crazy market shifts? Under traditional accounting, their financial value is literally invisible. You won't find them anywhere on that balance sheet.
So, welcome to our explainer on human resource accounting, or HRA. Today, we're going to completely demystify how companies can actually put a real financial number on human capital. We'll explore how we can bridge this huge gap between knowing our people are valuable and actually proving it on paper. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly how modern businesses are shifting from viewing employees as just a cost to recognizing them as powerful, value-generating assets. Here is our game plan for today. We'll cover the human asset problem, define HR accounting, look at measuring human value, weigh the benefits and limitations, check out some modern corporate examples, and wrap up with the future of HRA.
Let's dive right into Section 1, the human asset problem.
You see, traditional accounting was really built for the industrial age. It is totally obsessed with physical and financial assets. Under this old-school system, whenever a company spends money on recruiting, training, or developing you, that money is basically just written off as a short-term expense. It's treated exactly the same way as paying the monthly electricity bill. But human resource accounting flips this entirely on its head. HRA properly recognizes you as a long-term, valuable asset. It gets that the money spent on your training isn't just vanished cash, it's a strategic investment that's going to generate future economic benefits for the company. So while traditional accounting gets stuck looking at short-term costs, HRA is looking at long-term human capital.
Which brings us to Section 2, defining HR accounting.
Okay, so how does this actually work? Well, according to the American Accounting Association, the whole concept boils down to 3 pretty logical steps. Step 1, identify human assets. This just means looking across the organization and actually recognizing the distinct skills, experience, and potential bubbling within the workforce. Step 2 is to measure human value, literally putting a quantifiable number on that potential. And step 3 is to report that information. And look, this isn't just for show. The entire purpose of communicating this data is to make way better HR and business decisions. If management knows the actual dollar value of their workforce, they can plan better, invest a lot smarter, and grow faster. Let's unpack that second step a bit more in Section 3, measuring human value. So how do you put a price tag on a person's potential? Organizations generally choose between 2 main approaches. The first is a cost-based approach. This is basically looking backward. It involves calculating exactly what it costs to hire, select, and train you. We call that the historical cost method. Or it looks at replacement cost, estimating what it would cost in today's wild market to replace you with someone who has your exact skill set. The second approach is value-based. Instead of looking in the rearview mirror at what you cost, this method looks forward through the windshield at the economic value you're actually going to generate for the company in the future. To keep things simple, let's look at the most famous forward-looking method, the Lev and Schwartz model. This model is fascinating. It basically values you based on the present value of the expected future earnings you'll generate until you retire or leave the company. It literally treats an employee like a high-yield bond, projecting the future economic benefits you're expected to bring in and discounting that back to today's value. There's also the Flamholtz model, which adds this great layer of realism by actually calculating the probability that you'll stay with the organization. Both of these models powerfully shift the conversation away from what do you cost to what will you create. Let's move on to Section 4, benefits and limitations. When companies get this right, the advantages of HRA are an absolute game changer. It allows management to make vastly better decisions. They can see exactly where investing in recruitment and training yields the highest returns. It completely transforms human capital management because you're genuinely recognizing employees as strategic assets. It helps businesses evaluate their ROI on people, and it massively facilitates financial planning. But honestly, perhaps the biggest win, it attracts forward-thinking investors who want to see the quality of a company's intellectual capital, and it dramatically boosts employee motivation. People actually feel valued when their company actively measures and celebrates their worth.
But hey, reality check time. HRA is definitely not without its challenges. First and foremost, humans can't be owned like a piece of physical machinery. You can't put a padlock on an employee, right? Because of this, human value is highly subjective and it's constantly changing. If a rock star employee decides to quit tomorrow, boom, high turnover instantly tanks the accuracy of your valuation. Plus, future benefits are always uncertain. And from a pure accounting standpoint, the absolute biggest hurdle is that there's no universal mandatory accounting standard, like under the IFRS, for doing this. Without a standard framework, it's incredibly tough to compare one company's human capital value directly against another's.
Despite those hurdles, let's look at who's actually pulling this off. In Section 5, Modern Corporate Examples. Infosys is a prime example of this philosophy in action. They aren't just blindly throwing money at training, they're aggressively investing in their employees through their Springboard platform and massive AI upskilling initiatives. They treat these huge investments in employee learning as a direct deposit into their most strategic asset. They totally understand that in the tech world, their competitive advantage isn't their fancy office buildings, it's the sharpened, up-to-date minds of their workforce.
Similarly, Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS, maintains this relentless focus on continuous reskilling and leadership development. They operate on the fundamental belief that an upskilled employee is an appreciating asset. I mean, unlike a laptop or server that loses value the minute you take it out of the box, a human being who is constantly learning actually increases in value over time. TCS's entire strategy is built around compounding that human value.
And Wipro is running the exact same playbook. They're making significant, highly targeted investments in digital capability development. This really reflects the growing, undeniable importance of human capital valuation in today's market. These companies aren't just paying lip service to the old cliche that people are our greatest asset. They're actually putting serious capital behind that belief to grow the intrinsic value of their teams.
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, the future of HRA.
We are right in the middle of a massive shift. We're moving away from a world obsessed with the traditional balance sheet, where physical machinery was king and employee costs were just annoying short-term expenses. We're shifting rapidly into the ESG and knowledge economy. Today, tons of leading companies are voluntarily reporting human capital metrics right inside their ESG disclosures. Modern investors are actively judging companies based on employee capability, diversity and inclusion, average learning hours, and retention rates. They know that long-term enterprise value is created by human resources, even if traditional accounting hasn't quite figured out how to officially stick it on the balance sheet yet. And as generative AI rapidly transforms the entire business landscape, the physical tasks and routine coding of yesterday are going to be automated. What's left is pure human capability, innovation, complex problem-solving, and adaptability. So in this fast-approaching Gen AI era, how will your unique skills be quantified? The rules of accounting are slowly but surely catching up to reality. So the big question you have to ask yourself is, are you ready to continually upskill and prove your undeniable value as your company's absolute greatest asset?